Good evening, YouTube. As I stated in my last video, we had the first round tonight of Matthews versus McDavid. What a letdown it was. Now, everybody's thinking, this game's going to be a high-scoring affair with dirty dangles and skill showcase, and it was anything but. This was a tight-checking, boring, low-chance affair. I believe in the first period, the announcer said it was a low event period, and it was a low event game. It was just two teams whose biggest weakness on both sides is their defense, playing very strong defensive games, and there was very little offense in the game, very little sustained periods of pressure for either team. And it was just kind of a dud. And unfortunately, the Leafs lost. Some bad luck, some bad reffing, because overall the Leafs were the better team, I felt. But they just, it was one of those bad luck games that you just have to go whatever and put it behind you. The first period, Oilers went up 1-0 just past the halfway point, and it was an own goal. There was a bit of a scramble around the Leaf net, and the puck bounced out front, and Jimmy Vesey just went to clear it out of the crease. And it went off Muzzin's skate and in, so it was an own goal. Just a bunch of bad luck. And there you have it. Stuff would continue to unfold. No scoring in the second. In the third, the Leafs drew even. They were pressing a bit in the Edmonton zone. And the puck kind of had been thrown around, and I think maybe it was a rebound or something, came to Matthews in the right corner. And he just kind of walked a bit closer to the net and then fired one from just above the goal line, and just found a little hole. Koskinen was down against the post, and there was just a little hole where his pad didn't line up against the post, and Matthews snuck it in there, and it was 1-1, and I'm like, okay, here we go. But then 3 minutes later, a bunch of bullshit happened. Muzzin was chasing an Edmonton guy in his own end, and the Edmonton guy's teammate tripped him, and they called Muzzin for a penalty. So Muzzin didn't even touch the fucking guy, and there's a power play. What happens? Draisaitl scores, and Edmonton goes up 2-1, right? So, an own goal, and then the one power play goal the Leafs have given up in the last few games is on a fucking penalty that wasn't even a penalty, right? So it was just one of those games. That was 2-1. Leafs had some chances. They pulled the goalie, but eventually the Oilers would score an empty net goal and then seal the 3-1 win. So, it was just one of those games that wasn't meant to be. It felt like just with the bad luck, the bad calls, the bad bounces. But overall, I felt the Leafs were the better team. They outshot them by 5 or 6. Edmonton had to block a bunch more shots than the Leafs did. Leafs were better on the face-offs. They were a few hits behind the Oilers, but they were pretty close in that regard. And they only got 2 power play chances, didn't score on either of them. And then of course they only gave up the 1 power play goal, which shouldn't have been a power play for the Oilers. So yeah, overall I felt they were the better team. When there was any sustained pressure in anybody's end, it was usually the Leafs pressing against the Oilers. When they played Winnipeg on Monday, and it was like I think I mentioned in my video that it was just like they just were in the Winnipeg end buzzing for a long time. It looked like a power play at times, but it was even strength, right? There were a couple instances of that tonight where the Leafs did that. Not nearly so prevalent as it was in the Winnipeg game, but they were the team that did look overall more put together. But yeah, it was just that's the great game of hockey. You can be the far better team in a game, and it just seems like the pucks are hitting the post and bouncing out instead of in. You're getting the bad calls from the refs. Nothing seems to work, and you lose games. Other games, you don't play that well, and you just get the lucky breaks, the lucky bounces, and you end up winning in a landslide, right? Like, hockey's such a weird game. And this is just one of those instances where, you're the better team. You should have won. You didn't, because of some weird stuff going on. So, the bright side is that at least I like the Oilers of in this North Division. I hate every Canadian team except for the Leafs and the Oilers. So at least if the Leafs lose a game, they lost to the Oilers. That's the only bright side I can come up with out of this. But Other notes, Joe Thornton took just a light hit, but he seemed to have jammed his wrist or something on it, so he left and never came back. So hopefully that's nothing serious. And Simmons hit a post late in the third period too. So like I mean the Leafs were right in it and should have won, should have at least scraped a point out of it. But like I said, them's the hockey breaks. And early season impressions. Brody's getting better. His first few games were kind of like ugh, but I think he's just needs time to adjust, and I think he's started to look better on the back end. Hyman has had a really strong start to the season. He's just plugging away and doing Hyman-like things. Tavares has had a really strong start. Matthews looks out of this world. I don't think he has that many points yet, but he should literally have 30 points by now. Like he's been that good. The puck just hasn't been going in that much for him. The last couple of games, the Leafs have been dressing 7D because they've been playing their rookie Lettinen a little bit, and he played more tonight than he did against Winnipeg, and he looks pretty good so far. So, I'm hoping they should have won tonight. They didn't, so they're 3-2 now, where they should have been 4-1. But overall, things are really starting to round out in a nice direction, I think, and and hopefully they can keep it going from there. They play Edmonton again on Friday night. It's the two games in Toronto against Edmonton, and then they actually play two games in Edmonton next week sometime, I think. So they play like Edmonton 4 times in 10 nights or something like that. So that's the craziness of the schedule in these different divisions, right? So can't wait to see round 2 of McDavid and Matthews, because at some point there's going to be a lot of goals scored. Like they can't play a defensive battle every night like they did tonight. That's just not going to happen. So hopefully the second game is going to be a little higher scoring and provide us with a little more to talk about. So, but that's it for now. We'll see what happens on Friday night. Until then, have a great rest of the week.